The Colts have a huge AFC matchup this weekend at home against the Broncos, but they might be missing some incredible value. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right. Thanks for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 back in bonus bets to use across the app. What is up, everybody? This is Jake Arthur from roundtablesports.com. I almost said horseshoehuddle.com. That is my new digs. If you haven't checked it out already, that's where all my written work can be found, again, over at Roundtable Sports. And today we are kind of catching up on some Colts news here. It's the beginning of the week. They hit the practice field today in preparation for the Denver Broncos. So we're going to kind of do just like a quick catch-up episode today, kind of setting the table for a longer form, hour-long discussion on the Colt Squad show tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. So today, real quick, we're going to go ahead and discuss some of the big themes I noticed from the 2024 matchup between the Colts and Broncos, kind of what went right for the Colts, what went wrong, and where they might look to kind of clean things up a little bit. We're also going to catch up on the ESPN power rankings. I had some thoughts on that. So they brought those out today. The Colts, they moved up in the rankings, but marginally, and I definitely want to see what you guys think about where the Colts place, if you think it's fair or not. But first, let's catch you up on the injury report, because that is always the most important thing to kick off the week. And it's not quite as good as it was to start out last week for the Colts. So the practice report did just come out. Jaylon Jones and Charvarius Ward, both cornerbacks, both of them did not practice today. Now, Ward, that was to be expected. Obviously, he's in the concussion protocol. You would have hoped to see him get the limited participation today so that he could ramp up and that there would be plenty of time to get, cleared by the independent neurologist. He still could feasibly play this week. There's still a little bit of time. But nonetheless, of course, if he's not practicing today, that certainly makes his status for Sunday against the Broncos a little murky. Jaylon Jones, he's going to be out for a bit. So Shane Steichen said today during media availability that he's going to be out a while. We followed up and asked if he is a candidate for IR, and he didn't have a timetable for it and didn't really want to commit to whether or not Jones is a candidate for IR. Considering it's the same hamstring that he injured earlier in the summer and it kept him out like at least 3 weeks or so, I think that's a fair question. That's definitely one we still want to keep an eye on. Jones had been kind of relegated to a special teams role in this new defense. But nonetheless, if he were to have to play defense, we know the guy can play. He started for the Colts for 2 years now. Ward is still in the concussion protocol, obviously, but not practicing Wednesday. Jones obviously not practicing and could feasibly still go on IR. Shane Steichen, again, not really committing one way or another. Limited participation today. Running back Tyler Goodson, he had the dislocated elbow in the preseason. Didn't require surgery, but just a bit of rest. So he was a limited participant all last week. Has still got to kind of get used to introducing some contact and kind of the violence of football to that elbow to test it out a little bit. So they'll perhaps ramp him up a little bit as the week continues. Laiatu Latu, that's a new one that popped up on the injury report today. He was limited with a hamstring. Now, when we were out there in the early portion that the media was able to see, he was out there. So to me, I'm not sure if this was they already knew about the hamstring coming out of Sunday's game and they're just taking it easy with him, or this hamstring could have popped up during practice and like he started as a full participant, but the hamstring maybe pushed him out. So we'll have to follow up with Shane Steichen. We don't talk to him tomorrow, but we do talk to him Friday. So Latu is obviously a huge one that we need to keep an eye on the injury report, because if you're without Charvarius Ward and you're out without Laiatu Latu, that is two of your most important defenders, again, in a huge AFC matchup against the Denver Broncos. So you obviously would love to have yourselves at full power there. Full participants, wide receiver Alec Pierce. I think they said his was a knee. I forgot to jot that one down, but I think it was a knee. And then Michael Pittman Jr. with a glute. Both of those guys would be new additions to the injury report, but with them being full participants, it looks like they should be okay. The Colts also made some practice squad moves on Monday evening. They added cornerback Kedron Callaghan. That's a rookie undrafted free agent. I think he was from maybe Southeast Louisiana, I believe. And then veteran Derek Forrest. He's been in the league a handful of years. I think he's going into like second contract area. He has primarily spent his career, at least the most recently, with the Commanders. He started 17 games for them. So Callaghan, I'm curious to see what that one's all about. He played some special teams for the Seahawks in the preseason. So that could be mostly a special teams move for the Colts, although they obviously need a little insurance at corner. I think that's primarily what it would be for, but in the instance they had to call him up, I think that role probably would start with special teams. Derek Forrest I was having an interaction with a fan on Twitter, and he kind of made a good point that feels like the defensive Ashton Doolin a little bit, and that seems fair. Forrest has been a core special teamer throughout his career, but again, I mentioned that he has started 17 games in the NFL, and he came into the league in 2021. So a lot of the time he's been in the league, he has been counted on to actually play defense, much like Ashton Doolin has been counted on to play offense occasionally. So that one with Forrest, I could see him getting his way onto the active roster and being a core special teams player and being kind of a primary backup on defense. Now, he's another interesting one because he came from the University of Cincinnati. He is yet another guy who played special teams for Colts special teams coach Brian Mason when they all were at Cincinnati back in the day. Mason, of course, now has ties to Alec Pierce in college, Tyler Scott, the receivers on the practice squad now in college. He's got Derek Forrest. He recruited Spencer Schrader from UCF to Notre Dame when he was the special teams coordinator briefly at Notre Dame. So the Colts are throwing a lot of resources at Brian Mason for him to get guys he's familiar with and bring them into the fold. So Mason and Lou Anarumo, I don't think I can recall any Colts assistant coaches ever getting this many guys that, they either have ties to already or that are like handpicked particularly for this side of the ball. Like both these guys are definitely getting, it seems like just about anyone they want. So to make room on the practice squad for Callaghan and Forrest, the Colts released interior offensive lineman Mose Vavayo and safety Trey Washington from the practice squad. That one was tough because those are two guys that I thought would be ones that would last on the practice squad as long as the team didn't get really pinched to have to force a couple moves. Vavayo is a guy who at Fresno State in college had 3-position flexibility at both guard spots and center. And then Trey Washington, he was able to really get a lot better throughout the summer at safety, particularly in the preseason. You saw him kind of make some progress. So you factor in those moves. Are they insurance for the cornerback position or just the special teams that you're leaving in the rearview mirror with the injured guys? I think so a little bit. But if, in the immediate, if you see Charvarius Ward and Jaylon Jones, of course, not out there, that's going to kind of kick Mekhi Blackman up the list a little bit. We'll probably see Jonathan Edwards no longer a healthy scratch as well. Also, apologies. My dog is just fighting for her life back here. Very good timing as she coughs and hacks as I'm speaking and cannot pause anything. So very good work by her, everybody. So apologies for that. We're going to go ahead and move along to the next segment, talking about ESPN's power rankings and where they have the Colts slotted. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't miss offer. Again, I am so sorry that she is just hacking it up behind me here. She's not allowed in here anymore. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting. Whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, it's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Hey, can you cut it out back there? Thank you so much. Sometimes you got to put them in line, right, guys? All right, and then when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, well, Supply House has got next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Just join the free Trademaster program today and score some serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off of your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, let's get back to it as we all fight through what we're listening to here on the airwaves. All right, so ESPN, as they always do after a week on the football slate, comes out with their power rankings across the NFL. So the Colts entered this week prior to their Dolphins beatdown, ranked number 26, which I thought was pretty low. I'll be honest with you guys. It's a team that's in the middle of the pack. They're always kind of fighting for a playoff spot within the last couple weeks of the year. They're just kind of one of those teams where they get the poor bounces. It doesn't really go their way. And then they find themselves on the outside looking in. Not that they're a great team or even really a good, consistent team, but I think they're better than being cellar dwellers, considered among the bottom 5 or 6 teams. I think that is a little strong. I think the national perception of them sometimes is a bit harsher than it needs to be. So they go out, they beat the Dolphins on Sunday, 33-8, just an absolute beatdown. Arguably the most lopsided game of the entire slate. Now the Dolphins they seem like they might be a little bit of a dumpster fire this year. The signs were there in the summer that things maybe weren't going well. And then Sunday's game was just really, it just kind of put things under a microscope. And so the Colts beating a bad team, that shouldn't vault them up the rankings at all. But they were only pushed up to number 23, which still makes them a bottom 10 team in the NFL, which in general, when you look at it, it leaves them just, kind of slightly on the outside looking in of playoff contention. I don't know. You guys will have to let me know what you think. I still think it's a little low. The Colts in their rankings are the lowest ranked team with a win, and there are 7 0-1 teams ahead of them in the rankings. And I'm not naive to the fact that, yes, there are good teams that lose. And then, so just because your record is better does not make you better or worse than certain teams. There's so much gray area involved in that. But at the same time, I still think the Colts are being a little slept on. A lot of the questions we had about them, they're not fully answered yet, but they look better than when we were initially questioning them in the first place. Look at Daniel Jones. That's the biggest one. I mean, how many times here on our show or anywhere else, anyone nationally or locally talking about the Colts, Rick, they have a pretty good roster. They look like a pretty good team. And but the quarterback position has to be playing well. Well, Daniel Jones, orchestrated by Shane Steichen, had an awesome performance against the Dolphins. Steichen kept things very simple and efficient for Jones, and Jones pretty much mastered that. I mean, he had a few blips here and there that weren't great, but overall, it was one of the better games of Jones' career. And so, again, this matchup against the Broncos is going to be very telling. But at the same time, I think they could be a little more generous with the Colts. They have some more winning to do before they're going to start getting more kudos. But Daniel Jones looked good. The run game looked pretty good. Receiver-wise, they weren't super reliant on Josh Downs like we thought they would be. Michael Pittman had 80 yards. Tyler Warren was great, led the entire game in pass targets, had 7 catches. The Colts offensive line, which was a big mystery, they looked better. Matt Gonsalves had a really good game. Tanner Bortolini showed out. The concerns I had about Braden Smith were quieted, at least for this game, because that was a good pass rush that Miami had. Very good group of pass rushers. And then, you flip it over to the defense, and Lou Anarumo had Tua Tagovailoa in a complete bind. Just very uncharacteristic, made him second guess and wait on things, and just turned him into a mess. And so I think against quarterbacks that aren't like just the most incredibly cerebral players, I think Lou is going to make life pretty difficult for them throughout the season. So I like what I saw. We know the Colts are going to be able to beat a lot of bad teams. I think from the looks of it, they should be able to be competitive with most teams. If I'm being optimistic, I don't think they're going to have many of those no-shows that we've seen from them over the last few years. The Giants game is one. There were several in the Frank Reich era. There was 1 or 2 in Shane's first year as well. But this team does feel different, and they've constructed it that way, bringing in a lot of dependable veterans who've been there and done that. There are some exciting young players. And again, the coaching was phenomenal in the first week, which, again, optimistically leads me to believe all of these players that they've been bringing in, that the coaching should work most weeks because they're getting so many players that they feel fit very, very well into what they want to do. So moving forward, definitely going to keep an eye on the power rankings. Now, it's not like it matters in the grand scheme of things, but I like to keep you guys informed of what nationally people are saying about them. And so right now, number 23, again, that's still the top of the bottom 10 if you want to look at it that way. But I still think they're better than what that ranking is. I don't think it's egregious. Like, they're not far off from that. I think they're probably closer around the 20-ish range, maybe a little higher than that. But yeah, that's there's definitely room to grow. I think if they beat the Broncos on Sunday afternoon, they definitely will get into the top 20, and they'll start to be a team that people are talking about a bit more, especially if Daniel Jones has a big performance. So yeah, you guys, if you didn't already, go ahead and let me know what you think about that. Number 23, is it too high for the Colts? Is it too low? Only moving up 3 spots from number 26 last week. Was that enough? So let me know here in a moment. We're going to take a look back at that 2024 Colts-Broncos matchup, talk about some of the big takeaways and themes from that game, what went right, what went wrong, and what the Colts might look to change moving forward. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence, though, through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda. Move and be moved. All right, guys. So I was watching back this Colts-Broncos game from last year, Week 15. A lot of differences in this one. The Broncos were pretty banged up, but the Colts were as well. They had Mark Glowinski in there at right guard. They had Danny Pinter in there, Anthony Richardson quarterback to that game. But this was a game where you start out pretty good in the first half. The Colts held a lead going into halftime, and it felt like they had much more of the momentum than what the score actually was. It was only a 1-score game going into halftime, but the Colts defense was doing really, really well, which made it feel like a bigger gap than what it was. Offensively, what I noticed the Colts were doing really, really well early on. Their runs and throws over the middle of the field and the right side in particular were very fruitful, especially Anthony was dealing over the middle of the field a couple times. Had Josh Downs early for a big conversion. Michael Pittman Jr. had a big one over the middle. And then especially their runs, they're designed like RPO and misdirection runs to the right side did very well, with Anthony Richardson in particular. Jonathan Taylor ran the ball well over the middle. They approached Denver's defense with a lot of shotgun, pistol, again, misdirection and RPO stuff. And I haven't studied defenses to the degree that Zach has, obviously, but I'm getting the feeling, obviously, this is a defense with Vance Joseph that if you spread it out and make it exotic and confusing for them, that is the best way to counter it, because that's a defense that brings heat. They get kind of exotic as well. They're very, very aggressive. That's kind of the name of the game, and something we've been hearing throughout the early weeks so far is how aggressive this defense is. On the defensive side of the ball for the Colts, now again, this is completely different. It's Gus Bradley last year versus Lou Anarumo this year. But there was some stuff early on that Gus was throwing at Bo Nix and Sean Payton in the Broncos offense that looked kind of Lou Anarumo-ish. Resulted in Bo Nix having 3 interceptions. It was one of his first bad games in a while because he had really been turning it up and getting involved in the Rookie of the Year conversation and all that. But yeah, he had 3 picks. They had some really exotic fronts. Like there was one where they had a couple guys standing up. They had DeForest Buckner, stunt in from the ball lined up outside in, and they dropped 1 or 2 guys back in coverage. It was very interesting for Gus Bradley, but stuff that was kind of all over the tape from Lou Anarumo last week against the Dolphins. You heard Zach mention the other day those hook defenders. I think that's got to be the plan of attack again, because that's already stuff Lou Anarumo does a lot of, and it's all over the tape last year from what Gus Bradley did that really, really worked and confused Bo Nix. So I would imagine the Colts are going to try that. So what went wrong for the Colts? Now, the Broncos are a good team, and they wound up outplaying them in the second half, but the Broncos are not a team that you can make a bunch of stupid mistakes against, because they'll capitalize on that. So the Colts shot themselves in the foot a lot in the second half of that game. And again, Denver is good, so they're going to make you pay for that. Yeah, the one that really blew it open was the Jonathan Taylor 41-yard touchdown run that they reviewed, and it turned out that he dropped the ball right before the goal line. So that became a turnover. You had 5 turnovers in total. Anthony Richardson had 2 interceptions. Pittman had a fumble, and then there was a fumble somewhere else, but Taylor also had one. So he had 3 fumbles, 2 interceptions. Denver was able to score points off turnovers. They had a 61-yard punt return as well from Marvin Mims that they were able to score off of just a couple plays later as well. So this was so much a game of making critical, sometimes stupid little errors, and then a team like Denver is going to capitalize that and score and get points off of that. So I think if you keep things interesting and exotic, like you did last year, like Shane Steichen, it's the same play color, obviously. You can't be quite as exotic with Daniel Jones as you will be with Anthony Richardson, because obviously you're going to try and create as much confusion and belief from the defense that Anthony's going to factor into the run game. So it's going to be a little different, but we saw some interesting things last week against the Dolphins. So keep them guessing defensively. Again, I think they could still do a lot of RPO and, all the stuff that we've seen before. Lots of misdirection. You could still do pistol and shotgun with Daniel Jones also. And then defensively, just Lou Anarumo, go nuts, do your thing, man. Like similar to what you did against Miami without being too predictable on tape. Keep it up, because you confused Tua last week. Gus Bradley confused Bo Nix last year and kind of turned him into a pumpkin. As long as you're not making all these crazy mistakes and turning the ball over 5 times and, losing contain on punt coverage and letting someone get a 61-yard return, I think you'll be all right. Like I don't want to necessarily pick the Colts to win this one quite yet. I don't know enough about this matchup quite yet. And there's still some things that need to transpire in the next couple days, but the Colts certainly have a chance. It's at home. I don't know if they'll wind up being favored. They probably shouldn't, but I'm not going to count them out. They certainly could win this game. So yeah, what do you guys think? If you think back to, other than the Jonathan Taylor thing, to last year, and let's say A.D. Mitchell's pick six, fumble recovery, Nick Bonito, 50-yard touchdown thing. Those absolutely boneheaded things, if you take those out of it, what would you change? Or is it just eliminating the stupid stuff? Because, again, you could say the difference in that game was A.D. Mitchell's fumble backwards pass, Nick Bonito thing, and Jonathan Taylor's drop before the end zone that really did him in. So if you think it's just stupid stuff they got to eliminate and they can win, I don't super disagree, and I would love to hear from you about it. So that's it for us today. We're going to be on Colt Squad later at 9 p.m. Derek Schultz, Alan Pinkett, Zach Hicks, and myself will be bringing you everything. Again, hour-long special. We'll be talking everything Colts, Broncos, and just kind of catching everything back up in much more in-depth conversation. Again, thank you for making me your first listen of the day and listening to my dog fight for her life in the background throughout the early portion of this thing. The NFL season is finally here. So for your next listen now, get a double dose of Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler Madman Rowland gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end your day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you guys want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly, get the inside scoop from the facility, from inside the locker room and everything, please follow the link in our show notes. We would love to chat with you guys and answer your questions. If you don't already, please follow at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks2 on Twitter. We're also on TikTok and Instagram as well. Please also subscribe on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. And we would love those ratings and reviews as well. And with that, you guys have a great day. We'll see you guys later tonight for Colt Squad, and then tomorrow for Crossover Thursday with Zach and Sarah Bettinger of Locked On Broncos.